Hi everyone, welcome to Cyber Education World, and this is the round first of our SOC Analyst interview series for freshers. If you are preparing for your very first cybersecurity job or SOC Analyst role, this video is your starting point. And in this round, we are covering the basics, things like the CIA Triads, Firewalls, OSI Model, DNS, TCP and UDP, all those core concepts interviewers love to ask in round first. Okay, but instead of just definitions, I will walk you through exactly how to answer them in front of the interviewer, like clearly, confidently, and in simple language. So let's jump into it. What is the CIA Triads in cybersecurity and why is it important? Okay, this is a common and important question, especially for anyone entering the cybersecurity field. Let me answer it clearly and effectively. The CIA Triads is a fundamental concept in cybersecurity. It stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And these three principles from the foundation of cybersecurity. Let's break them down. First, confidentiality ensure that sensitive information is accessible only to authorized user. Think of login credential or customer data. You don't want unauthorized user getting access to them. We use things like encryption, access controls, and multi-factor authentication to protect confidentiality. Second one, integrity, is about making sure that data has not been altered or tampered with. For example, when a file is sent over the network, it should arrive exactly as it was sent. Hash function and checksum are commonly used to verify integrity. Third one, availability, means that system and data should be accessible when needed. If a server goes down or a DDoS attack happens, user cannot get the data they need. To maintain availability, organization implemented backup systems, load balancing, and incident response strategy. The CIA triad is important because any cyber attack usually affects one or more of these three principles. Whether you are building defenses, investigating incidents, or configuring alerts, okay, you are ultimately working to protect confidentiality, integrity, or availability. Can you explain the difference between a firewall and an IDS? Okay, this is a common and important question, especially for fresher to trying to understand the basics building blocks of network defenses. Let me answer it in a simple and clear way. A firewall and an IDS stand for intrusion detection system, are both security tools, but they serve different purposes. A firewall acts like a traffic filter. It blocks or allows traffic based on predefined rules. For example, it might block port 23 to prevent telnet access. Firewalls are placed at the boundary of networks and are used to reduce exposure to outside threats. They operate mainly at layer 3rd and layer 4th of the OSI model. And IDS, on the other hand, is like a monitoring system. It does not block anything. Instead, it analyzes traffic for suspicious behavior and alerts the security team. Think of it like a silent alarm that notify you when something looks wrong. And the key difference is the firewalls are preventive while IDS is detective. In some case, we also use IPS, stand for Intrusion Prevention System, which can detect and block threats. Okay, in a SOC environment, we rely on both tools. Firewalls help in reducing attack surface while IDS helps in detecting breaches or attacks already in progress. What is a MAC address and how is it different from an IP address? Okay, this is a very common networking question and it is important to know the difference between MAC and IP addresses, especially when you are working in incident response. Let me explain it in a simple and effective way. A MAC address stands for Media Access Control, is a physical identifier assigned to a device's network interface card. It is a 48-bit hexadecimal address, something like 00:1A:2B:3C:4D:. It is a unique to every device and does not change unless manually modified. It works at layer 2 of the OSI model and is mainly used for local network communication, like your PC talking to your router. An IP address is a logical address assigned by the network. It can change depending on where the device is connected, and it helps route the data between the different networks, including the internet. IP addresses work at layer 3rd of the OSI model. A good analogy is your MAC address is like your device's fingerprints, and your IP address is like it is a current mailing address. You need both to identify and reach devices across and within network. In SOC investigation, we might track an attacker's IP for tracing external sources, while the MAC address helps identify the suspicious device inside the network. Okay. What are the different layers of the OSI model and why are they important? Okay. This is a common and important question because understanding the OSI model help us troubleshoot network issues and analyze attack more effectively. Okay, let me walk you through it step by step. The OSI model stand for Open System Interconnection, has 7 layers, each with a specific role in how the data travels from one device to another. Okay, the first layer is application layer, where users interact with application like a web browser or email clients. It is the closest to the end user. Okay, second layer is a presentation layer, which is responsible for translating data formats. Okay, think of things like encryption, compression, or changing data from one format to another. Okay, third one is a session layer. Session layer, it means it manages the sessions or connection between two devices. Okay, it keeps track of the conversation happening across the network. Okay, fourth layer, transport layer, which ensures reliable data delivery. It is where TCP and UDP protocol operate, handling things like acknowledgement and error checking. Fifth layer is network layer, where routing happens. IP addresses are used to move data between the different networks. Okay. Sixth one is data link layer, which handles MAC addresses and ensure the data get to the right device within the same network. And last layer is a physical layer, which is all about the physical medium like cables, Wi-Fi signals and network cards. Okay, why is it important? In a cybersecurity and networking, the OSI model helps us pinpoint where an issue occurred, whether it is a physical cable fault, an IP misconfiguration, or a misbehaving application. It also helps us to understand how attacks happen, like ARP spoofing at layer 2nd or DDoS at layer 3rd. So, if you are working as a SOC analyst and see an alert, mapping it to the OSI model can help you trace the problem and respond accurately. Okay. What is the difference between TCP and UDP, and give examples of where each is used. Okay, this is a classic networking question and it is a one you should definitely know to how to answer as a SOC analyst. Okay, let me explain it clearly. TCP and UDP are both transport layer protocol, but they serve different purposes. Okay, TCP stands for Transmission Control Protocol, is a connection oriented. That means it established a connection before the data are transferred and ensure reliable delivery. It uses a three-way handshake to set up communication. It also checks for errors and guarantees that all packets arrive in order. Okay, that's why TCP is used in applications where reliability is critical, like web browsing, emails and file transfers. Okay, now UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol, is a connectionless. Okay, it just sends the data without checking if the packet arrives or if they are in order. It is a faster but less reliable. UDP is used where speed is more important than reliability, like video streaming, VoIP or online gaming, etc. Okay, in terms of ports, TCP use port like 80 or 443, while UDP uses 53 for DNS or 69 for TFTP. Okay, in security, understanding TCP and UDP help us analyze logs and detect anomalies like unusual port scans or traffic spikes. Okay, if you see a large amount of outbound UDP traffic, there might be a red flag for data exfiltration or a DDoS attack. Okay, how does a DNS work and what role does it play in internet communication? Okay, this is a very common question and an important one. DNS plays a critical role in how we access services online. Let me explain it in a simple and practical way. DNS stands for Domain Name System, is basically the phone book of the internet. It translates a human-friendly domain name like google.com into an IP address that computers use to communicate, like 140.250.190.14. When you type a website into your browser, your device sends a DNS query to a DNS server. That server check its records. If it does not have the answer, it queries root servers, then TLD servers like .com, and finally authoritative name server to get the IP. Once it gets the IP, it sends it back to your device which then initiates a connection to the IP using HTTP or HTTPS. Okay, this entire process usually happens in milliseconds. Okay, DNS is super important in security too. Attackers often use malicious domains, and DNS logs help us to detect those connections. Okay, tool like DNS filtering and passive DNS monitoring are all used in SOC environments to track suspicious activity. Okay, if a DNS is compromised, like in a DNS spoofing or poisoning attack, users can be redirected to malicious sites. That's why DNS monitoring is a big part of the threats detection. Okay, what is ARP and how can it be abused in an attack? This is another common question that connects networking and security. Okay, let me break it down for you clearly. ARP stands for Address Resolution Protocol. It is used to map IP addresses to MAC addresses on the local network. So, if your computer wants to send the data to another device on the same local area network, it uses ARP to figure out the destination MAC address. Okay, like your system sends an ARP request asking who has this IP, and the device with that IP replies with its MAC address. Now the risk: ARP is not secure. There is no authentication in ARP responses. Okay, that opens the door for a type of attack called ARP spoofing or ARP poisoning. In this attack, an attacker sends false ARP messages to trick devices into thinking the attacker's MAC address belongs to the default gateway. As a result, the attacker can intercept, modify, or stop traffic. This is called a man-in-middle attack. In a SOC, if you notice duplicate IPs, network slowdowns, or suspicious MAC addresses mapping to multiple IPs, that could be a sign of ARP poisoning. Okay, you can detect this using tools like Wireshark or ARP Watch. Okay, and prevent it using dynamic ARP inspection on switches. Okay, now what is phishing and how can users protect themselves? Okay, this is a very important and frequently asked question, not just an interviewer but also in awareness trainings. Let me answer it simply and clearly. Phishing is a type of social engineering attack where attackers trick users into giving up sensitive information like passwords, credit card numbers, or personal data. Okay, it's often done via emails but can also come through SMS or even phone call. Okay, a typical phishing email might pretend to be form of trusted company like your bank or your employer. Okay, like asking you to click a link or download an attachment. That link might take you to a fake login page designed to steal your credential. Okay, to protect themselves, users should follow a few key rules. First is never click on suspicious links or download attachment from unknown sources. Okay, second, always verify the sender's email address carefully. Third is use multi-factor authentication to reduce risk even if credentials are stolen. Fourth is hover over links to see where they actually lead before clicking. Okay, and finally report suspicious emails to your IT or security team. In a SOC role, we also monitor for indicator of phishing like DNS request or to unknown phishing domains or attachments with malicious payloads. A tool like email gateway and sandboxing can also help detect and stop phishing campaigning before they reach the user. Okay, define the difference between vulnerability, threats and risk. Okay, this is one of those questions that seems simple but is very important. Understanding these terms is a key in risk management and SOC analysis. Let me explain it clearly. A, a vulnerability is a weakness in a system. It could be a software flaw, misconfigurations, or outdated software that can be exploited. For example, an unpatched web server with an unknown CVE. Now, threats is any potential danger that can exploit that vulnerability. It could be a hacker, malware, or even an insider with the malicious intent. Okay. Now, risk is the potential impact if the threats exploits the vulnerability. It is often defined as a risk is equal to threats multiplied by vulnerability multiplied by impacts. Okay, let's say there is a vulnerability in a VPN server and there is an unknown group activity targeting VPNs. That is a threat. If that system is not patched and it holds sensitive data, the risk is high. In a SOC, we use this understanding to prioritize alerts. A low severity vulnerability with no active threats might not be critical, but a high impact risk with unknown exploits damage demands immediate action. Okay, what are common ports used by services like HTTP, HTTPS, DNS and SSH? Okay, this is a must know question for anyone in cybersecurity or networking. Ports are initial in identifying traffic and services. Let me give you the most common one. HTTP uses port 80. This is for regular unencrypted web traffic. Okay. Second is HTTPS uses port 443 for secure encrypted web communication. Okay. Third one is DNS. DNS typically uses port 53 for resolving domain name to IP addresses. Okay. Fourth one, SSH. SSH uses port 22 for secure remote logging and command execution. Okay. These are called web unknown ports and they help firewalls, SIEMs and analysts identify what kind of traffic is flowing across the network. In a SOC investigations, recognizing these ports help you spot anomalies. For example, SSH traffic on a unknown standard port like 2222 might raise a red flag. Okay, or DNS queries going to an unfamiliar IP might indicate data exfiltration via DNS tunnel. Okay, that's why port knowledge is critical both for analyze and rule configuration. Okay, and that wraps up round first of our SOC Analyst interview series. If you are new to cybersecurity, don't worry. Mastering these basics will set a strong foundation for the technical and scenario rounds ahead. Okay. If this video helped you to understand how to answer interview questions better, make sure to like this video, drop a comment and subscribe to Cyber Education World. Next up is round 2, where we will dive deeper into SIEM tools and technical questions you are likely to face. Okay, see you in the next video.